Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks. Today, taking a look at Supreme Straits with some top tier players on the roster. Spawning here in the northern section for the blue team, it's going to be BDBR representing the blue team in the C lane position. Going to be kicking things off right with a spicy little build order. You're going for 3 mexes instead of 2 mexes into energy production. What will they bring out next? I'm excited to see. Now, this was a game that was submitted by a viewer here. I've been covering a lot of these recently because, well, I'm an addict. I just love seeing what you guys break out. I believe this one was submitted by our very own Slizer of the blue team, going up in the other beachhead position, the northern beachfront, as I call it. Very excited to see what happens here. Apparently, there's some interesting naval shenanigans, and, well, you gotta know that I love naval. Spawning in the southwestern section for the red team, it's gonna be Ozpark, our red team leader dressed up in Armada clothing here, an Armada commander, I should say. Going for that bot lab, but I'm sure that eventually we're going to transition into something. Well, actually, I guess that's not true. Technically, when you're on this lane, you have a couple of options. You can fortify the ever-living hell out of this lane right here, and then just hope and pray that they don't bring enough forces to smash through your wall. You can push into the sea, of course, try and build a... That's a bit odd. Build a little naval facility over here and try and eventually fan out into the sea lane. Or you can, of course, try and go for something cheeky where you just apply more and more pressure up the middle of the straits and try and be aggressive in that direction. So you have a lot of different options as the player here, so I'm interested to see what Ozpark is going to do. Now, also, interestingly, Ozpark and BDBR are going to be in mirrored positions here. You can see that they are both in the same position across the diagonal of this map, which is always nice to see. Red versus blue to the absolute maximum. I'm gonna lower the volume here just a tiny bit. Ryan Krause needs you to chill out with the epic orchestrals here just so that I can speak clearly. That's a lot of ticks we got here, Mr. Everest, going forward with quite a few of them. We've got 3 ticks, and I'd love to see them try and sneak into the backline. I think they will. Yeah, they see an opening, and I'd love for them to take it. Oh, don't go after those pawns. There's a nice, juicy little res bot you can go after here. Unfortunately, it will not be what gets snagged. The grunts might see it. There are higher value targets than we could have gone for than these pawns here. So, all said and done, I don't think those ticks got the engagement that they were hoping for. But, I mean, they're ticks, right? It's not really the end of the world. Transport was handed out from Barbie Commander. Probably from Endo Robo. Looking at the wrong thing. Am I even watching the right game? I don't know. I do not know. BDBR was handed a commander here. A blue team leader was handed a transport rather than a commander. Already had one of those. Looks like for now just going to use it to move constructors around, try and set up all of these mexes as quick as possible. We are going to be going for the geothermal plant, as we should. Geothermal is incredibly efficient, so it's very worthwhile to get that up and running as quick as possible. There we go, we do snag the Lazarus. Very important indeed. If you can eat up all this metal and send it either into your own economy or back to your team, yeah, you're going to be in a great position here. One thing that you can do with grunts is if you fan them out in a big line and then you hit F as in, oh, it's too dark in here. I can't see I can't see my chart. I have a nice big chart that has all the phonetic alphabet here. Foxtrot, that's what it is. F is in Foxtrot. They will move forward, and especially against pawns, they will stop just outside of the firing range of the pawns, where their range hits its limit, and then they'll do damage without you having to do too much micro. Just a helpful little tip for you there. Oh, interesting. Slizor did set the commander down over here just before fighters caught the transport, so it was a hair away from Slizor's commander going down, but it does mean that Slizor is going to capture this island over here, which is really, really nice to see. If you can catch this island, almost always it means you're going to win the naval battle. If you don't catch that island, it is going to be very difficult to catch that or to win the naval battle. You're going to have to contest this area. I will note that there's a ton of hovercraft pushing across the high seas here. One of them will be split off to kill this constructor. Very nicely done. The rest of them will make their way onto the mainland, trying to do a little bit of damage. Lovely, lovely stuff. Yeah, hovercraft coming out of douchey bag. Foul name, but great strats here. Trying to commit to a little bit of harassment somewhere else on the map is always a good idea. If you can take advantage of the sea lanes around the map, then you're going to be putting your team in a really fantastic spot. These goons have the potentiality to make quite a big impact on the game here. They are moving back towards Barbie Commander's facilities here. Whether you're a Barbie commander or an Oppenheimer commander, you're danger. You're certainly going to be in a lot of trouble if a bunch of hovercraft appear and you don't have any defenses. Now, pawns are streaming out of the back labs here. Eventually, they will be able to clean this up, but not before they get at least one metal extractor. Sorry, just had something in between my teeth there. A little unprofessional of me, maybe. Absolutely necessary, 100%. Gunship here to try and shoot this down. That's an interesting choice, I guess. Ender Robo just doing whatever he can. You know, when you have that air lab, your choices are limited, right? Better that than a bomber, I suppose. Meanwhile, exactly the same position but mirrored. We have what's the name here? The Sniper. Similar story. Also has some of these hovercraft moving across the map. Got the goons headed out and about on the map, trying to do a little bit of damage here. Looks like a constructor was killed, and it was setting up metal extractors over here, which is nice. Trying to claim as many metal extractors as possible is always the best way to go about things. Yeah, the goons are getting a really good trade over here, though. Harassing down Mr. Everest. Kind of keeping this player down. Making sure that the front line is open as much as possible, and that is a really, really good thing to see. Destroyers are coming out of Slyzor's base at the moment, Slyzor's production facility. Meanwhile, the commander has fortified this island, setting up some light laser turrets, and that's all well and good. So interestingly enough, Ozpark has decided not to go into that naval contention here. So instead of going naval, just settling for building up a eco in the backline, going all the way up to T2. So what Slyzor should be reading from this is essentially that they have no contest on the high seas, right? They've had to do nothing to contest this lane right here, which means that they obviously they're going to be encountering something. So some sort of play is happening on this side, whether it's bombers or scouts or you know, just anything that could be on the docket, on the roster. You need to be aware that that's probably going to be coming up shortly. For the time being, Mr. Everest is in a little bit of trouble. Going to have to send a constructor back here to try and reclaim all of these metal points, rebuild on all those metal points, and the commander is going to move back to build a forward vehicle lab. Now, on 32 energy per second, that vehicle lab is nowhere near close enough to going to have the right amount of energy, so probably going to have to see some solar panels or some wind turbines or something of that nature if we want to deal with that. A lone hovercraft is still in the backline here of the blue team as well. Would love to see that continue to move around. Always nice to park one of those somewhere off to the side where it might not be detected, and then you're going to get a nice little trade there. Going for a naval energy storage. Interesting. Nothing too far out of the ordinary. You can see BDBR going for that naval transition here eventually. Gonna step out into the water and try and do their very best to contest the high seas. So I've talked about this before, but basically the way it shakes out is if you are playing on the beachhead position and you lose the naval battle, you're in a really tough spot because all of your metal extractors are so close to the ocean that it can be really, really difficult to maintain your presence here once you've lost the ocean. When you're in this lane, when you're in the sea lane position, you can afford to lose the naval battle and still recover and contribute to the team. It's much, much easier because a big part of your economy is land-based. And for what it's worth, you're in a safer zone, I suppose, is one way to look at it. Hounds are out now from our mid-line player here, Spaceballs. Here to steal your air. Perry Air. I love that movie. That's a timeless classic. Oh, do we have rocket bots? Yeah, or rocket hovers? We do. I love these. This is a great inclusion here. These rocket hovers can do a ton of damage, and they're a really nice inclusion on the in the early game. They can burst down light laser turrets really quickly, quicker than commanders or res bots or anything like that can repair them, which makes them very deadly on the front line. You can see them harassing down these light laser turrets with ease. Yeah, this is a great move, is to keep a couple of these rocket bots on the front lines. You can usually do a tremendous amount of damage, tearing down T1 defenses with ease. At this point, Ozpark is just building up that T2 economy. We've got constructors, we've got build power coming up, we've got the advanced geothermal plant is queued here. There we go. And I would love to see that coming up as well. That's going to be a nice little boon to the energy economy for our red player. Also, eating up the T2 lab might not be a bad idea, as I'm sure Ozpark is well aware. Now, you might see that this game is a little bit imbalanced. BDBR a little bit higher true skill than the the highest player, Ospark, on the other team. But I can assure you that both of these players are very comfortable with the game, and so having them in mirrored positions is probably pretty fair. Missile Corvette here is actually able to tickle away at the metal extractors on land, so I wouldn't mind seeing it just harass these down. No reason not to deny that economy, since you happen to have a unit that can hit it. No reason not to. Meanwhile, Barbie Commander has gone for a ton of wind turbines, and I really don't hate it, but I think we need to use that energy for something. We're producing a ton of energy and turning it all into metal with a bunch of energy converters. But frankly, I don't think we have nearly enough wind turbines, actually, ironically. Going up to the T2 economy now, that was probably handed off by, I'm gonna guess, Spaceballs here, who I did see handing off a T2 as well to BDBR. Very nicely done. If you get up to T2, be sure to advertise that to your teammates. You never know if it might be really useful or not to somebody who's desperately in need of T2 but just doesn't happen to have the facilities to jump up to T2 on their own. You might save someone a real headache just getting them a T2 constructor. Big Elsa battle over here. Quite interesting. Not Elsa from the movie Frozen, the hit movie Frozen, but Elsa as in Elisa, Commander Elisa. I think it was a commander or general. I don't know. Somebody from American history, but I've forgotten now. Either way, Elisa is, despite being the name of these ships, they are going down. Destroyer in the backline goes down. That's quite nice. The Destroyer was the only thing that could harass these submarines, and so these can get effectively infinite value against the Dolphins and the Elsa that are coming out now. And these frigates are going to have more than a hard time dealing with that submarine, which is just going to start slowly tickling them down. How much percent is that? About, what was that? 15? No, that was 29. Goes down to 15. We'll call it about 15%. Yeah, more or less there. Looks like there was a little bit of aggression here, but I think it is safe for now. Wow, you don't really see a damaged energy converter very often, do you? They tend to explosively react basically every time. T2 lab up here on the front here for Nimswag. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to pronounce that, but either way, T2 lab is going to be quite nice. Going to get those Fiends out, going to get those Sheldons out, going to get maybe even a couple of those Scuttles out. They can be very, very powerful. Meanwhile, a T2 naval facility here for Slyzor, who is just focused on growing the economy at the moment, and getting these T2 naval metal extractors is well and good. Going to start shooting up that metal all the way up to the top. You can see 9.2 metal per second down here in the bottom left-hand corner. Really, really good stuff. One thing you can do, and one thing that I like to do a whole lot when you happen to be contesting this island, is you can actually walk the commander. You can walk it into the enemy's base over here. Especially if they're not contesting it, you probably can move the commander over freely. Now, there is a pit bull here, and that'd be quite dangerous to the commander, but the commander, of course, can just cloak, and then that's all. This is another thing that I like to see, is building a whole bunch of tidal generators. One thing that I love to do is take a T2 constructor like this and just tell it to go build a huge swath of tidal generators. Looks like that's actually what Slyzor is up to right now, so that's really good to see. So BDBR has fully won the naval field here. I mean, Pillow is technically still producing units, but the reclaim has all gone back into BDBR's naval facilities. So at least for the time being, BDBR is in a commanding position here, and it's going to take a whole lot, maybe some torpedo bombers or torpedo gunships or something like that in order to assist the yellow player down south here. But for the time being, the Elsas are just too much to handle, and it's going to look like a naval victory here for the blue player. Yeah, res subs are critical. You need to make sure that you're constantly eating up the, well, they're having a little dance right now. They're nuzzling each other. You need to make sure that you're reclaiming, because there is so much metal that sinks to the bottom of the ocean when you end up getting into these fights like this, and reclaiming it is the only way that you're going to be able to keep up the fight. You can see Elsa is continuing to stream in here, and units are going to take longer to hit the front lines for the blue player, as opposed to the yellow player. However, the yellow player has significantly less economy, so it's going to take longer to produce units. So all things considered, they are relatively even, save for the metal, which is essentially what's going to swing the tide of this battle. Remember that every one of these Elsa that goes down is essentially going to be recycled back into the blue armada, so even these kills here are sort of shallow. Elsas do not do much damage, though. They have to be careful. Yeah, you don't want to. You need to bundle them up so that they can get their damage all at the same time. Otherwise, they are just going to go down one by one. These ships here are reclaiming, so units are still coming out for Pillow. This is an interesting back and forth. I think it's time to start. Oh yeah, okay. So destroyers are out on the docket, and in fact, we're just going heavily into destroyer production. Do we have a balance here? No, we're just going right into destroyers. I don't hate that one bit. Yeah, enough reclaim was sucked up here that I think it probably makes perfect sense to just go right into destroyers. They're going to have that long-range artillery, but also the fact that they can do a little bit of AoE damage, so if these units remain clumped up, yeah, those long-range plasma cannons are going to do a great job of tearing that down. Hounds are out, and those are devastating those T1 units in the middle of the map, and that's always something to be wary of, right? If you move those hounds a little too far forward, they will get torn apart, but if you keep them in reserve and you make sure to use them tactically, they can get a hugely and tremendously efficient trade against the enemy units. Mandatory comfy with loads of T1 tanks, but really hesitant to move them in everywhere. Spots the hover tanks that are sort of skirting the edge of the defenses here and starts preparing a massive army. Wow, actually going into 2 T1 vehicle labs as well as a T1 bot lab. I actually really like the T1 bot lab for, yep, exactly these bad boys right here, the red spots. If you're going for vehicles, it's worth the investment to go for that, it's worth the investment to go for those hovercraft, or rather for those, the resbots, sorry. Thoughts are distracted here as I'm watching all of these hovercraft on the northern side of the map swarming across. Yeah, you can see that the platypus is pushing in here. Platypus are very dangerous. They have a light laser mounted on their heads and it can fire away from a distance. And they are a T2, so they do a pretty good amount of damage. They're difficult to fight, that's for sure. It's like a swarm of walking light laser turrets marching towards you. Slides are in a little bit of trouble here as all these hovercraft are rolling over, but as long as he stays in the water, the hovercraft are going to be a non-issue, at least for the commander's health. But certainly these platypus can continue to move forward and do a lot of damage on land. Slidezor is in a little bit of trouble here. There's also an anti-air missile attached to these platypus' backs, so this T2 constructor is in a lot of trouble. Oh, a Nuki B is out, going to try and mop up some of these bad boys. Wow, that was yeah, that was a really good hit. All right, we'll take it. Yeah, managed to blow up a whole bunch of those hovercraft at danger close nuclear bombing, but it did work in the end. Lots of pinging going on over here. It looks like Indorobo is going into that T2. Meanwhile, hovercraft tanks are going to be the weapon of choice against these platypus, but the platypus are very quick. Sprinters coming out here from Spaceballs, very good. Sprinters are probably a perfect counter to the platypus. You need something fast, you need something that can catch up to them, and you need something that can do a lot of damage. And yeah, I think the Sprinter is probably the best choice on the docket for that, so well done. Eventually, it looks like these platypus will be held. Most of them will go down. There was a energy converter cluster that exploded, but that's, frankly speaking, irrelevant at this point in the game. Well into T2, those advanced energy converters are going to be welcome additions to the economy centers. And yeah, all things considered, that was a minimal amount of damage for how many resources and platypuses were eventually shot out there. Interesting, so Ozpark has just gone entirely into hovercraft here. We do have an air lab and plenty of T2 constructors, so I'm wondering if we're going to go for some sort of transport shenanigans, or I'm not sure, some sort of drop like that. I guess I wouldn't mind seeing that. Maybe dropping a couple of tanks or something over here on this side of the island and rolling them up the hills or something. I don't even know, but the hovercraft could do the same job, so I don't see why you wouldn't just do that. The hovercraft are swarming on all sides now, kind of doing a little bit of a pincer maneuver, trying to apply pressure on this angle as well as the front lines. Whoops, not like that, I mean. And so eventually, hopefully, enough pressure is done that Mr. Everest is going to cave here. For the time being, though, Sprinters are very good. Hovercraft are very good. Buccaneer is very good, though. Buccaneer is actually a great choice for dealing with these, as well as the Devastator, which is sort of like the bulwark of the seas, if you will. Uh-oh, cruise missile has gone directly up into the air. That's dangerous. Yep. You got to be real careful with those cruise missile ships. They can do a lot of friendly fire damage if they're left unattended. Nicely done by the blue team to hold on from the aggression over here, using these sprinters that have ran all the way out of that T2 lab in order to mop up a lot of those. Very, very nice rapid defense here from Spaceballs, doing a great job of contributing on the front line and not just stagnating in the back and crippling themselves. Nuclear bomber comes down. I think it took out a whole bunch of tanks right there. That's going to be dealt with, I believe. We have fighters on its tail. Maybe not, though. Yeah, the nuclear bomber does retreat backwards, and I think the T2 fighters will be enough to dissuade a lot of the pink fighters here from pushing forward, especially with an engagement like this. You can see just how well those fighters trade. Oh, yeah, that's a lot of the pink fighter group going down right there. It's a tricky thing to balance, right? Because when you pull your fighters away to retreat, they won't be able to attack. So you almost want to split off some of them so that the enemy fighters are forced to regroup around those units and take them out, so that the main units can survive. A bit of a the many will survive at the expense of the few kind of a deal there. J2C in a little bit of trouble now, gets surrounded by a bunch of Seekers. Luckily, we'll dip into the water, making it difficult for them to attack. And I think the commander will eventually end up all right. Commander's on hold fire mode, so it's not interested in shooting at them, oddly enough. Maybe trying to move out here and capture. I would love to see that, but we do need to be sure to cloak the commander if we're going to be going for something like that. Maybe building a battery might help so that the commander can cloak for a little bit longer before draining all of its resources. Wow, this fight is still ongoing. I hadn't checked in a while, but BDBR is still fighting up against Pillow, our Pillow Princess of the evening, and the destroyer count for Pillow is looking pretty high. Yeah, there's a lot of destroyers. Commander goes down, that is quite nice. And now the units have free reign to start whittling on these destroyers. Yeah, they're all pretty low health. And I have a feeling it won't be long before most of them are dead. Sunk to the bottom of the oceans. And reduced to molecules. Res subs are out. Wow, very, very brave of Pillow to build this economy so close to the beachhead. But I guess he figures if he loses the beach here, he's going to lose the beach forever. So no point in trying to contest that. Oh, snipers have been brought out. That's quite nice. Yeah, snipers can do a lot of damage. The lab goes down right as another destroyer pops out here. Repairing the destroyer while it's fighting, always a good idea. Always valid. The sharpshooter actually getting tremendous value here. Really nicely done by the red team to help over here. Brain Fulong, actually, the one contributing that. Now this submarine is causing quite a bit of a stir up over here. We need to see a torpedo launcher put down. Otherwise, this thing is going to cause havoc in the backline. There we go. Yep, torpedo launcher will come up. Oh, will come up. Destroyer works too. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Eventually the submarine is cleaned up, and that's actually a huge wreckage field right on the middle of the map here. At this point, though, BDBR is well into T2, got 2 fusion reactors, 3 advanced energy converters, and a ton of T1 energy converters as well. Getting the advanced geothermal plant, that's always nice. Get that free energy, basically. Efficient energy, I guess you could say. Hover tanks here, the heavy hover tanks, what are these called? Halberds, that's right. Don't see those too often, but they're very powerful. Yeah, they can do a lot of work. Nicely done here. Gonna catch a bunch of these constructor ships that were trying to box in Pillow and tear them down. Yeah. The support from the team cannot be understated here. Pillow is receiving immense support from the team, and that is lovely to see. Really, really important, really phenomenal job making sure that they're keeping as much pressure applied as possible and supporting to keep their player in the game. Because seriously, you don't want to lose any naval ground, otherwise you're going to be in a really, really tough position. A couple of battleships are out now. These are dreadnoughts. These are proper battleships. You can see the range of fire on them is pretty tremendous, and they can do a ton of damage as well. Nicely done for them to move over here. Very, very nicely done of Ozpark to come over and save his own geothermal plant from being bombarded by those long-range missiles. It's always a shame to lose those, but it almost feels impreventable. Meanwhile, the Buccaneer count is growing here for Slyzor. Where's Slyzor's commander, by the way? Has retreated back home to go rebuild metal extractors. Very nice. So Slyzor's commander is going to be assisting this constructor here in building all these T2 metal extractors. Nicely done. Stepping up into the T2 lab is very good as well. Getting those tidal generators up, always constantly expanding the power infrastructure is very, very worthwhile. Paladins are going to be the weapon of choice here for BDBR. Going to start pumping them out in mass and sending them to the front lines. They have 2 light laser turrets on the front and rear of the ship, the bow and the aft, I believe. And then there's also the heavy Gauss cannon, which is really the main weapon. Going to be quite dangerous, and yeah, actually, I really like the inclusion of these halberds. This is they've been handed over by the hovercraft player over here, Douchey Bag. And I think they're quite nice. Yeah, it's gonna be just a little bit of firepower that submarines aren't really gonna be able to contest. Yeah, these Dolphins jump on top of a lot of these Paladins, taking a really nice fight here, cutting essentially the Navy in half, taking one fight after the other, and it's going to melt down that T2 Navy super, super quickly. Excellently done there. Very, very nicely done, Pillow. Looking like they're on the back foot here, but really holding on for dear life and making the best out of it. Getting these fusion reactors up is quite nice as well. Doing a great job of scaling the build power, scaling the production, keeping the pressure high. I think BDBR would be wise to send out a couple of submarines to constantly be trying to poke at the sides here. You saw how effective that one submarine was when it was just skirting along the edge here. Continuing to apply submarine pressure on either side to this player would probably be a great way of spending resources. It's tricky though, because those hovercraft can't be attacked by submarines. So if you go too hard into submarines, you're going to be locked into a unit composition that you can't really get out of. The Buccaneers march forward. Buccaneer versus Paladin. They're sort of the same unit class. They basically fill the same role, but in different ways. But the Buccaneer count is significantly higher, and you can see that they are tearing apart these meager Paladins with ease. Gorgon is out, and it's a multi-headed plasma tower, I guess. It's interesting. It's like somewhere between a Ragnarok and a LRPC, or just a regular LRPC. But it does a lot of damage. It can definitely fire pretty fast and do quite a bit. This push will be held at the expense of many a Paladin. It's going to be crucial that these engineers get to reclaiming as quickly as possible. Also probably could do with a little bit more build power at the moment. Kind of something that we're stalling on. Ozpark is going for a huge tech lead though, so going to funnel as much of that resource into building up a massive economy and then use the rest of it to just defend as long as necessary. Bombers coming out here, and they're going to try and take down this advanced geothermal plant. No anti-air up on this hill like we tend to see, so these will have no issue dropping their heavy impulse warheads on this advanced geo and blowing it sky high. On one hand, if you invest a whole lot into AA over here, calls for AA on his own geothermal spot. If you invest a ton of AA over here, you might stop those bombers, but also you might just put a bunch of metal into places where the resources are effectively just going to explode once the geothermal goes up. So you really have to overkill it, and then you're left with the question of was it even worth it in the first place. Paladin's really struggling to deal with the Dolphins here. There's just so much volume of Dolphin. I think submarines are going to be the answer. I think a bunch of those Predator assault submarines, assault submarines, the fast-firing submarines. Let me just look up the name of them here. Barracuda, that's what it is. The Cortex ones are Predator. I've been playing a lot of Cortex recently, and I've been having a blast. But it does mean that I forgot some of the Armada names. The Barracuda is the assault submarine for the Armada faction, and I think they would do well against this many Dolphin. Brought out in such vast numbers. Taking a pretty good fight here, engaging with broadside cannons on the edge of the ships here does allow for them to spread the surface area across a thinner one. Allows for blue ships to fire more than the yellow ships. And you can see that it works really, really well. You can see those Dolphins going down, but way before the LSA even have a chance to fire on them. Or way before they have a chance to fire back at the LSA, I should say. Marauder moving in here, and Mandatory Comfy's base is in quite a state here, currently being ravaged. The commander is on 3% health. Would have loved to see that being finished off, but these Marauders are off, and they have more important things to do. Going to start tearing apart some resbots. Why not? Do whatever you can when you can. Gonna start trying to do a little damage in the backline as well. Try and shoot down this fusion reactor. I do like to see it. Focus down one of them, please, though. Don't need to disperse the damage. Just do a little bit here and a little bit there. Now, just try and kill one of them. There we go. Now we can work on the second one. Marauders are very strong. You really have to respect them, or else they will sneak into your base, and this is what you'll get for it. 2 dead fusion reactors and a lot of blown-up windmills. Tremor's on the front line, laying down a suppressive or an oppressive amount of firepower. I guess it's a suppressive amount of firepower as well. Just constantly contributing a hail of bullets into the air and onto the front line, making it really difficult to push in there with units. Otherwise, you're just going to get shot to pieces. The Buccaneer count is again continuing to grow. Paladin count is also growing, but I think in a heads-on battle, the Buccaneers are probably going to win it, especially if they can get all of their lasers engaged at the same time. The Paladin have a little bit more range, though, so they are starting to whittle away at some of these Buccaneer. Gorgon also contributing a nice amount of firepower. You can see it just constantly spits out these plasma balls. It's such a satisfying turret, it really is. It just fires away, and eventually whatever it's aiming at, whatever it happens to be pointing any of its ugly heads at, disappears into oblivion. More build power coming up in the back line here for Slyzor. I do love to see it. We've also got loads and loads of eco coming up in the back, as well as a nuke for Barbie Commander. Now, was there anti-nuke build? Sufficient anti-nuke, I should say. Yes and no. There's still anti-nuke charging on the front line here. Oh, it actually isn't finished yet. Oh, it's just a T2 constructor. Okay, so there's actually no anti-nuke on the front line, meaning that J2C is in a really, really risky position here. There's also a small corner of the production facility over here that's left exposed for Dankshaw, but the main economic center is still covered by anti-nuke, so that's fine. The other risky area is Ozpark's naval facilities over here, which are completely exposed to nuclear threat. No anti-nuke was built over here, so certainly that nuke there, well, it does have some opportunities to get some damage out. Razorbacks are heading to the front line, and honestly, I think it's time to go. We've got enough forces here. It might just be a lack of scouting, a lack of confidence. The blue team doesn't know exactly how much of an advantage they currently have on the front line. These T3 Razorbacks are more than sufficient to break through these front lines. The sniper count here would probably take down 2 of them, maybe 3 of them, and the Thors would probably get there as well. But yeah, you're going to have enough to swarm them, and you're definitely hitting that critical number if you haven't already. An open letter to the blue team. Push. Signed, yours truly, TNT. Another big engagement must have happened down here because I see a whole lot of dead ships underneath the water, all being eaten up by res subs for BDBR, constantly being sure to apply the pressure whenever you can. A couple of Paladins are out, but I think it's time we start investing in a different breed of ship. Yep, we're going for the battleships. That's a great idea. I was going to say maybe even go for an Epoch, a capital ship. The capital ship is prone to getting jumped on by a whole lot of these little submarine, or these little dolphins rather, but if you include a bunch of T1 submarines, they'll be too distracted with the ship to notice that they're all being popped from the underneath. You're about to die. Probably not too far from the truth here. J2Z's commander is surrounded by a bunch of depth charge launching Buccaneers, and it will go down lickety-split. Would have loved to see the commander, instead of killing all this, instead capture it. Something that you can always go for is the capture command, and you can do a really nice job of folding the enemy's units into your own composition. It looks like Ozpark has decided to go for a Prude up here instead of the advanced geothermal battery. The Prude just doesn't explode when it dies, so you don't really have to worry about it chain reacting everything up on that hill. I like that. I mean, since we know that it's already vulnerable to bomber craft anyways, might as well just make your life a little bit simpler. You're not really sacrificing that much energy per second for that. I believe it's like, yeah, it's usually 1,200 or something, 1,500. Actually, I could probably check over here. Yeah, 1,250. Okay. And then, yeah, to go from that to 750, I mean, that's acceptable losses, certainly. It's still very, very efficient as far as metal goes. Oh, we did this engagement backwards. I think what we wanted to do was send the hovercraft in and then send the Paladins in. We sort of did this the other way around, and I think it meant that a couple more Paladins had to die here than was absolutely necessary. The Red Army pulls back as they realize that they are vastly outnumbered. Yeah, way more economy on the side of Slyzor, who now has a couple of energy converters up and running, the naval energy converters, I should say, and is just constantly streaming out Buccaneers. Not a change in tactics or a change in plan here. Just going to go fully on into the Buccaneers, and well, I think it'll probably work. I do love a little bit of naval variance, but you know, if it's not broke, why try and fix it? Gorgon towers are up and running, and they're going to start spewing their nasty little hellfire bullets as fast as they can. Will it be enough, though? I don't know. I have a feeling the answer is probably no. Ozpark moving the commander in to try and do a little bit of damage to this Navy. Oh, but it doesn't even kill them. Yeah. There come the torpedo bombers. Looks like... Was that... Oh, yeah. Yeah, Ozpark went into his own T2 air lab here. and decided to go for some of those torpedo bombers. I think it's great, but not a little bit of a, well, just a little too late. That's all I have to say. EMP bombers, that's quite nice as well. Not something we see used against ships very often, but it definitely works. You can EMP the ships, and it has just the same effect. Would have loved to see that just a little bit earlier. I probably would have been able to save BDBR. Would have been able to use that metal to gain a nice little economic lead, but he's already got it. I mean, with this many active advanced fusion reactors, he was really just in the naval theater for the metal that he could pull out of the enemy ships. At this point, Ozpark has a lot of decisions to make, right? What do we go for at this point with all of the metal that we have? All of these energy converters working constantly. Overflowing a ton of energy, actually. We really need almost double the amount of energy converters that we have at the moment. Currently, there are 9 advanced fusion reactors and 22 advanced energy converters. So you need a 9, 8, 9... Hold on. Pulling out the calculator. 9 times 4 is 36. There we go. Quick maths. Not worth getting wrong while recording. Yeah, you're going to need about 36 advanced energy converters, give or take, in order to keep up with energy production if you want to convert it all to metal. There's no reason why you couldn't keep a little bit less than that, because you are going to be producing units, and that also costs energy. So a lot of that will probably be drained, but certainly just something to keep in mind and consider. So at this point, what I would love to see from Slizor is just immediately transitioning to an amphibious lab. The economy is there to just transition into that amphibious lab and then start making tanks and rolling them up the hills. You already know that there's a high chance that whatever's going to go on, it's going to come from the land, and so having some sort of land-based army is going to be really critical here. ResTub's going to eat up 24,000 metal worth of defenses, ships, and production facilities that have sunk to the bottom of the sea here. Now, the missile carriers are nice, don't get me wrong. They definitely can shell away at this coastline and do quite a lot of damage. Getting ready for that by mounting a bunch of pulsars as well as some pit bulls. Really love to see that. Great map awareness, by the way, for Douchebag to consider that. Meanwhile, wow, BDBR has lost his naval theater. There's suddenly way more units pushing in here than I think he was prepared for. The hover tanks coming out of the backline are going to be really difficult to deal with. Yeah, that's a backline economy, well and true. Bunch of Stormbringers are coming out as well. Definitely some big plans out of Dangshaw here. Some really big plans. Resbots are going to be crucial. Oh, I guess we have the construction ships here working on reclaiming everything. As long as somebody's up to that, it's going to be just fine. Gunships are out, and I actually like that a lot. There are skaters for anti-air, but yeah, the skater anti-air attack is pretty abysmal. it's pretty bad. No T2 anti-air over here, so these fighters are actually going to have free reign over here. Needed tons of fighters, but I think a couple of flak turrets would probably do a little bit better. The Gorgons are quickly going down. You can see that they put out a lot of fire, but it's kind of a damage over time thing. Like, they have to be stuck in the fight for a good while before they can kill anything. They don't do big spikes of damage like the Scorpion does, or like a nuke or something like that. It's definitely very lots of damage over the course of many seconds. More and more gunships are hitting the fight over here, trying their very best to clean up as much of this as possible. BDBR in a really tough position here. Commander goes down, and it's going to take out a lot of the facilities over here, leave a nice big scorching crater, rather. It does kill a lot of these ships, though, so at the very least, it relieves a little bit of pressure off of BDBR. Yeah, those fighters, they're tough. They can do a lot of work. That's a lot of Stormbringers as well. We're looking to bomb. We need these fighters to move over immediately. Tumbleweeds pumped out here. Quite interesting. We don't see those very often. Huge nuke headed out. And by huge, I mean it kills a couple of res subs, so, you know, not the biggest thing in the world. Oh! All of those bombers went down right there to the explosion of the advanced fusion reactor. That really sucks to see. Tumbleweeds are rolling out. They are very speedy underwater. Are they faster than I remember? I could have sworn that tumbleweeds were not that quick underwater. They definitely seem to be right now. Wow, that's quite surprising. All right, well, tumbleweeds coming out at this point are, yeah, they're starting to connect. Doing a little bit of damage to these ships. What does a single tumbleweed cost? It costs a whopping 65 metal versus the 1,000 that a buccaneer costs. Yeah, I guess that is a pretty efficient way of dealing with those. I had never realized it, but yeah, I guess it's one way to do that. Tumbleweeds rolling around all over the place, trying to find a good connection here. Wow, I'm pretty impressed that those tumbleweeds are doing the job. It costs a mountain of metal for these T2 facilities to produce all of these, but even then, we're not even able to spend all the metal that we have. We being Ozpark. Interesting. Yeah, I guess go for a couple more construction towers, because I'm not even able to spend all the metal at the moment. BDBR is back in this game somehow. Still holding on for dear life. Trying to make the very best of a tricky situation. Dolphins, paladins, and carriers, oh my. Although I guess there's no carriers in the mix. I would like to see a couple of anti-nuke carriers kind of dispersed around, just in case. Probably more relevant to the red team than the blue team though, because the red team has been nuked already. You can imagine a single nuke landing right in the middle of wherever this this yellow fleet goes. It could have been a really bad turn here. So many Elsa, so many of these these assault frigate ships, T1 ships. It's really difficult to deal with without just an immense volume of fire to counteract it. Yeah, I really wouldn't hate seeing a single Epoch build here. Just to lay down long-range firepower. It's gonna melt away a whole lot of these ships before they can do anything. This is hilarious, though. Watching these tumbleweeds get closer and closer to these ships is so dangerous. Oh, there's a nuke to wipe away a bunch of the facilities over here. That nuke would have been a little bit more warranted maybe 10 minutes ago when, you know, when they were basically all the naval for red was being pumped out in this area. That nuke could have done a lot more work, but still gets rid of a couple of walls and some of the tumbleweeds that were underwater. But more of them are rolling out here. I did not know tumbleweeds were this powerful underwater. This is pretty hilarious to see, I gotta say. Pretty great stuff. The tumbleweeds are continuing to do damage wherever they can. Whoa, the frame rate's really dropping now. I guess the tick spam coming out is going to do that. Oh, but it might be this too. That is a pretty insane fight. I got to agree with BDBR here. EMP bombers to try and stun as much of this as possible. Very nice. Learned from the fight up north and decided to apply down south. Yeah, these EMP bombers getting a nice little connection to a lot of these ships and stunning them. It's going to allow the blue paladins to move in and get a sweet little trade against a lot of these ships, sinking to the bottom of the ocean. How much metal is that? 27,000. Oh my goodness. You can see the fleet of res subs eating up everything on the bottom here. What does one of these pick up when it's eating? It's like 50, right? Not quite 50, more like 30. But there's a lot of them. You can see that this is almost 300 metal per second coming back to BDBR here. On top of that, an economy which is meant to support proper late game production. This is completely nuts. Whoa, the shuriken are out in mass now. Mass shuriken to paralyze these poor paladins. It's paralyzation after paralyzation. This is devastating to deal with. We need some anti-aircraft. Just get a couple of skaters out and you'll be in a great spot here. Skater light anti-air is perfect for dealing with shuriken. It's almost tailor-made for dealing with light craft like that, like shurikens. I can't believe how flip-floppy these battles have been. All the way back and forth for hours now, for almost an hour now, 42 minutes into this game. And the naval battles are still going strong. These tumbleweeds still being annoying here. It takes everything that these ships have in order to counteract the tumbleweeds rolling into them. And even then, it's still not really enough. I can't believe the tumbleweeds are winning against the Buccaneers. That is too funny. And now there's a couple of lunkheads hovering across. They're going to try and do some damage. I love to see it. Maybe an anti-air bot or two? Some sort of anti-air. I mean, there's plenty of fighters. I guess that works. Yeah, there they go. Fighters coming in to try and take care of some of these torpedo gunships. I really like to see it. There goes one more. Every one of these poor buccaneers that goes down is slowly being whittled away. Anti-air ships are now the main course, focusing primarily on those, considering that the fighters are threatening the torpedo gunships. Is this really happening? Is it really the tumbleweeds that are bringing this fight back from the brink of death? God help us all, indeed. Oh, there's the shuriken. The anti-air is here, though. Oh, EMP bombers. Nicely done. Get a nice little connection. Take out about the top half of the naval here for the yellow player. Gonna get a few more. Yeah, nicely done. Catching a couple of the yellow paladins here. Slowly forcing this fight back into the favor of BDBR. Both teams showing just how dedicated they are to keeping their front lines alive. I don't know why we aren't constantly judoing this line here to shut down all this tick spam. No reason not to do that. The lunkheads are continuing to roll forward. Oh, what a crazy naval battle. Beyond all reason, perhaps. Yeah, you're not wrong, J2C. You're not wrong. This is beyond all reason for sure. My goodness. By the way, the front line is holding steady because of armies and armies of Vanguards and Razorbacks holding the line against the T1 spam. The constant metal dump. Is it really worth the amount that you're paying in spamming those T1 if they're not even getting close to shield generators or the T3 or anything like that? I don't know. I think it might be time to turn them off. Meanwhile, gunships over here, a fair counter to the lunkheads. Basically, what I keep seeing is that every team is finding the perfect solution to whatever problem they're dealing with. So, like, I mean, I didn't believe it, but the tumbleweeds are apparently the perfect counter to Buccaneers, and it allowed for the lunkheads to come out here, but then forgot to include any anti-air. So then the gunships forced them back, and then that sort of pattern keeps repeating itself. Loads of bombers coming in now, trying to do a little bit of damage. Even a nuclear bomber, wow. Bringing out the big guns now. Doesn't look like those bombers were able to do too much, though. Yeah, I'm really surprised no capital ships have been brought out yet by BDBR. Seems like you might want to work on one of those at some point here. Reclaiming all this metal could certainly be the way to fund it. You can see whoever's in charge of this tremendous wreck field is going to be in the lead here until someone in the back line helps them out. So we need more EMP bombers down here or something. Some way to help this area out. The tumbleweed spam is continuing to roll forward. Very lackadaisical, these tumbleweeds. I feel like they made tumbleweeds faster. I don't remember them being this quick underwater. I feel like they might have had their speed tuned a little bit because they are really hauling right now. Some of them finally make it ashore. Uh-oh. Oh. Well, I was gonna say it'd be nice if they collided over there, but it looks like they will not. Devastator does go down. The long-range plasma cannon, heavy laser turret, light laser turret, floating platform. Not sure what else to call it. It's a defense that wears many hats, that's for sure. T2 lab is up and running now. T2 naval lab, that is. Yeah, why not? Still tons of reclaim all over the place, by the way, so I wouldn't mind seeing maybe a couple more hovercraft built here to try and make sure that reclaim can turn into the red hands. A nuke comes down right here and wipes away a huge part of, I'm gonna guess, Mandatory Comfy's main base. Yeah, there's a bunch of fusion reactors that were untouched, but that was a really, really nice hit there. There's basically no defenses at the moment. The Razorbacks have been pushed back by a huge ensemble of Thors. Yeah, these Thors are getting pretty far. eventually shut down, but at what cost, right? That's all of those Razorbacks scuffed up pretty badly here. And now they're in a lot of trouble as the hailstorms are coming in, the heavy strategic Cortex bombers. The Ragnarok must have been spotted, and that's what we're going to attempt to shut down. Those T1 solar panels never stood a chance. Was there probably a better target to pick right there? Probably. Do I support the wholesale destruction and annihilation of T1 solar panels? Absolutely. You bet it. More tumbleweeds rolling in. Of course, they damage the other tumbleweeds around them when they explode, but you know, as long as they get close enough, it doesn't really matter. They were planning on exploding anyway. I cannot believe how effective these tumbleweeds have been. Seriously blows my mind how powerful those things are. I had no idea. No clue. None whatsoever. Yeah, the T2 production is going to start up here. We've got the construction turrets coming up now. This ship has been unemployed for quite a while. Would love to see it continue to build those tidal generators. Just build a huge map of them. There's no reason you should ever stop it. Lunkheads are going to slowly climb their way up this hill here and tear down the light laser towers. Nicely done. It doesn't take much for them to rain down fire supreme upon all of these towers, and it it'll destroy it. Red abusing broken stuff. Yeah, I had no idea that the tumbleweed was this powerful. I know I've said it a lot this cast. You'll just have to forgive me because that is nuts. Ragnarok is out here for the red team, and with that, the frontline players are starting to crumble. There's still a huge line of forces that are going to be impossible to break through in T1 spam, but certainly the Ragnarok will eventually whittle it all down. Choosing its targets very specifically. I do love to see that, going after the advanced fusion reactors back here. Nicely done. Firing a little bit further than I think it's supposed to, but you know. Oh, I see what's happening. It's bouncing the shells off, or is it? Oh no, I guess it's not. It's just up on a hill, so the shells can reach a little bit further. Either way, starting to disassemble everything on the front line here, and now the platypus are swimming away, paddling their little feet. They've got a cute little hovercraft fan that resides under their bottom, and they use it very generously. Will this finally be the push that ends Pillow, or will the Paladin have to retreat once more? I think what would really help here is just getting some EMP bombers on the production facilities, just shutting down the production itself. Oh! What did I call it, or what? There we go. That's exactly what we want to see. Yeah, shut down the labs, and then yeah, no more units, right? The Blue Dolphins jump on top of the production here. Nicely done. And I think that is finally, after a game's worth of naval battle, going to be BDBR winning the lane. I don't think it's enough, though. I mean, there are Thors breaking in. The Razorbacks are still applying pressure. Those Razorbacks have been absolutely critical here. Spaceball's base is destroyed, though, so there will be no more, at least no more Spaceball labeled Razorbacks on the front line anyways. Barbie Commander certainly could get some out, but honestly, Barbie Commander's economy is not looking as strong as I would imagine it should for a backline player here. You can see that BDBR's economy is nearly twice the size and is still maintaining a massive naval presence. Pillow, huge commendations to you. You held against all odds, beyond all reason. You really gave BDBR a run for their money. You stalled as long as humanly possible, and you came within an inch of winning more than once here. Nothing but commendations to you. That was really, really impressive. Really fun stuff to watch. What a real beautiful naval battle that was back and forth the whole time and didn't just evolve into random artillery fire all over the place. Wow, those boats have never been more paralyzed in their lives. All 10 of those dolphins have never been more paralyzed. Yeah, I think these should probably disperse their attack a little bit. Oh, they did. They did disperse a small amount, I suppose. Yeah, you know what? I mean, if these ships are going to stand still, you might as well bomb them, right? It's already too late, though. The front line has crumbled. Units are leaking in from every direction. The platypus are overwhelming everything. They're in the back line. They're everywhere. You can't escape them. I see them in my dreams. I see them in my wildest nightmare. That was a over-the-top game right there. 51 minutes and 27 seconds of action-packed beyond all reason. This is what we're looking for, that's for sure. Here come the hailstorms. They've broken through the airlines. Gonna start bombing the advanced fusion reactors. There goes the base of Ender Robo, the last, well, the second to last, I guess, big eco center for the blue team. CBDBR center has already been destroyed here. This Thor, as well as probably some of that T1 spam, eventually getting the better of it. Slowly but surely. The resign vote has been called. It looks like it's turning into a tower defense over here. Beamers being built all over the place. Spaceballs last troops are holding on. There they go. The blue team does decide to resign at this point when all hope is lost. What a miracle match. It's rare we get to see one this action-packed. This very well might be the game of the year. That was crazy to see. The naval battle back and forth. I mean, I've never seen naval battles swing so back and forth before. Really, really nicely done by the air players. Typically, naval battles end with one big engagement. That was a constant, steady fight for the entire game, and I loved to see it. I hope you did too, and I hope you enjoyed, and most importantly, I hope you don't forget to smile. I will see you in the next video. Peace out.